looking at all these people who are extremely upset about what happened with George Floyd, I'm seeing a lot of very extreme shifts. Calls to abolish the police, talking about defunding the police, and they just have these very, very extreme views. They make it out like the police are just pure evil. We should just get rid of them. Society would be better off if we just got rid of the police. And there is this tremendous hatred for the institution of the police. And that's another thing that I've noticed. People today, they tend to hate the institution. They don't want to change anything, they just want to destroy the institution. They don't factor in that human beings can be bad. Human beings can be very, very evil, regardless of the institution that they're in. It's why I laugh at these people who praise certain political structures, certain political infrastructures. They'll say, we need a monarchy. Things will be better. Well, what if the king is evil? Then what? Well, then you're screwed. Well, we need a republic. Well, what if the people running the republic are those savages who were in the French Revolution? Well, you're really, you're in a lot of trouble there. Well, we really need a full-on pure democracy where we just have no electoral college and people just vote for what they want. Well, what if the people are trash and evil and insidious and vicious? What then? What then becomes of your democracy? You'll democratize yourself right into despotism. This whole idea of either praising a certain institution or outright condemning an institution is really a sign of, I think, intellectual ineptness, and also just it's a reflection of an extremist way of thinking. And there really are a lot of extremists in the United States. We like to tout ourselves as though we're so much more superior and better than people in the so-called third world. We don't have extremists like they do in the Middle East, where they just kill each other all day. But there are plenty of extremists in the United States, and there is a lot of extremism. The United States, before it was the United States, America as an English colony was first settled by extremists. The Puritans were extremists. They were complete lunatics. They were so extreme that they banned Christmas. Yes, they banned Christmas. The first war on Christmas wasn't done by left-wingers. It was done by Puritans, people who conservatives in America today love to praise, and they love to talk about how good the Puritans were and all that stuff, which is just a big fantasy. And there have been many examples of extremism in the United States. Even before America was created, there was actually a war. There was a war in the colony of Maryland. Maryland was established as a colony for English Catholics originally. And the Puritans took over. And there was a very vicious war, and the Catholics lost. The Puritans actually wanted to annihilate every male in the Catholic colony, but the Puritan women, having some compassion, they begged the Puritan men not to do it, so they rescinded their genocidal urges. There is a state in the Union called Utah, which was founded by extremists, Mormon extremists. There was a war between the United States government and the Mormon Church. And this war also took place in the state of Missouri as well. And then you have other types of extremists. You have people in the Northeast who love to talk about population control and how there are too many people, and there's just a lot of weird extreme views. You have people running away from war-torn countries, desperate to get into the United States, and we have people saying, no, they're invaders. Well, they're not really invaders. They're people who actually want refuge. Oh, no, they're invaders. This is an invasion. This is no different than an invasion. It's a very, very extreme position. And then you have some guy on the Tucker Carlson show. I think his name was like Ed Stein or something. His last name was Stein. And he said that America's border is no longer on Texas. It's up in Oklahoma because there's too many Mexicans in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico. Very, very extreme views. And if you say, hey, I don't agree with these views, then you have people telling you that you are a traitor, you are a terrorist. Apparently, Middle Eastern people hate America. These are also, very, very extreme views. There's just so many weird beliefs. If you disagree with the idea of climate change, you're no different than a Holocaust denier. You have to believe that there's overpopulation. If you don't agree with abortion, you hate women. There is so much extremism in the United States, a tremendous amount. And then if you have a few cops who do bad things, all of a sudden the entire institution of the police force needs to be gotten rid of. This reminds me of something that happened in history. It reminds me of the very intense debate between Martin Luther and Erasmus. Martin Luther and Erasmus were both theologians who knew that there were a tremendous amount of problems in the Catholic Church. They both knew that there was a lot of corruption in the Catholic Church. And Erasmus wanted to reform. He wanted to purge those corruptions out. Martin Luther wanted to destroy the institution of the Catholic Church. He wanted to destroy the institution of the Catholic Church. That's why he called it the Great Whore of Babylon. And, when the Turks invaded Christendom, he was praising the Turks because, Rome needs to be destroyed. And Erasmus said something very astute and wise. He said, just because there are problems in the institution doesn't mean that we have to destroy her. It doesn't mean we have to destroy the institution. It does not mean we have to burn it down to the ground. It just means we need to reform things. Should we be talking about police brutality? Absolutely. Should we get rid of cops who abuse people and who have weird, sadistic, power-hungry urges? Absolutely. Should we be fighting against police brutality? Yes, absolutely. We should be combating this problem. But does that mean we destroy the entire institution of the police? Do you know how many cops there are in the United States? There are around 800,000 police officers in the United States. In the year 2019 alone, 9 unarmed blacks were shot by cops. 9. Out of a population of 800,000 police officers who are supposedly part of this racist, evil institution that just wants to kill people of color, you have 9 unarmed blacks shot by police. And I don't know, if those cops were guilty of any crimes. We have to look at each situation differently. But people hear stories about a guy who was shot, and then they read the narrative that says, well, this guy was innocent, and then they say, oh no, we have to go protest, and we have to call for the abolition of the abolishment of the entire police force. This is a completely insane and extremist position. And the problem with this sort of atmosphere where extremism thrives is when you have one form of extremism thriving and becoming a ubiquitous presence, you will have another form of extremism rising up as a reaction to that extremism, to that one faction of extremism. So if you have enough people saying we have to destroy the police, or if you have enough people saying, we need to purge America of whiteness, well, what are you going to have? You are going to have white people who believe in racial extremism. They believe in eugenics, Darwinism, racial, white supremacy, all that stuff, and they are going to react. It's like what happened with Dylan Roof. It's like what happened with Andres Breivik. It's like what happened with Branton Tarrant in New Zealand. It's like what happened in El Paso. These were really all examples of the right-wing extremists. And these were examples of the type of violence that they could do. And what inflames these people, or really what gives these people a feeling of justification for their evil actions, are when they see people talking about how evil white people are and all that stuff. it's a very, very volatile situation, and this is what makes it so scary, is you have one side taking this really extreme view, and it's like they don't expect a reaction. You have to expect a reaction. You have to. It's called a strategy of tension. I can't stress this term enough. The term strategy of tension came from NATO. It came from originally Italian intelligence who were working with American intelligence, British intelligence, to form a system, or really to form a plot in which they were going to antagonize the right by organizing actual terrorist attacks, and then making it seem that it was the left-wingers who were doing the terrorist attacks. And the whole purpose of this was to spark outrage. It was to spark nationalist fury. We saw this nationalist fury with the refugee crisis. And now we have been seeing for years now, this push against, America's quote unquote whiteness. And when you have people emphasizing a particular skin color as evil, then people of that skin color are not going to like it. You're going to have a bad response. So in an atmosphere of extremism, extremism only breeds more extremism. And this is what makes it so scary. Anyway, hope you guys have learned something from this message. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.